My name is Al Capone, and I operated during the Prohibition era of the 1920s. I came from a poor family of Italian immigrants and grew up in the gritty environment of Chicago. My life story is filled with twists and turns. From my involvement in petty crimes and bootlegging during the time of the Prohibition to becoming one of the most prominent alcohol smugglers in America, my journey has always been filled with excitement and fierce competition. I managed to control the bootlegging trade by establishing a powerful criminal organization known as the Capone Gang. Bloody rivalries with competing gangs, murders, and gang wars became part of my life, earning me both fame and infamy among the people. Now, I will share a story with you, a story of rise and fall, of power and weakness, and the impact I had on society and the criminal culture. So sit back, relax, and join me on this journey back in time. Welcome to the world of Al Capone. I was born in the early 1890s to hard-working Italian immigrant parents in the gritty streets of Chicago. Let me tell you, those neighborhoods were something else. They were teeming with life, a blend of different cultures, but also a tough place to grow up. Chicago was going through some major changes back then. The 1920s brought about what they called the Prohibition era. It was a time when the government decided to ban the sale, production, and distribution of alcohol. But you know what they say, when there's a demand, there's always gonna be someone supplying. And that's where I came in. I saw an opportunity in the midst of this Prohibition madness. I saw a chance to make some real money. The city was overflowing with illegal speakeasies, secret bars where people could still get their hands on a drink. I became a part of that world, supplying them with the finest bootlegged alcohol money could buy. But Chicago wasn't just about the booze. It was a city where different immigrant communities collided. You had the Irish, the Poles, the Jews, and of course my fellow Italians. Each group brought their own traditions, customs, and sometimes their own criminal enterprises. Now I won't deny it. There was a fair bit of crime happening in those streets. From gambling dens to protection rackets, the city was a playground for those looking to make a quick buck, and I was no stranger to that world. Now, we're gonna dig deep into the roots of my criminal empire and the paths that led me down the road of organized crime. Growing up in the tough streets of Chicago, I saw how the city was run by different gangs and criminal syndicates. It was like a jungle out there, and only the toughest survived. I learned early on that if you wanted to make a name for yourself, you had to be willing to get your hands dirty. My journey into the world of crime started with small-time hustles. I was involved in various illicit activities, from running gambling operations to participating in petty thefts. But I knew I wanted more. I wanted power, respect, and of course money. I found my true calling during the era of Prohibition. With the ban on alcohol, opportunities for profit were endless. Bootlegging became a lucrative business, and I saw it as a chance to establish myself as a force to be reckoned with. I formed connections with suppliers, distilleries, and other underworld figures who shared my vision. I built a network of associates and loyal soldiers who were ready to do whatever it took to protect our operations and expand our reach. But it wasn't just about the alcohol. I dabbled in other criminal enterprises as well. From illegal gambling dens to brothels, I had my hands in every profitable venture. I knew how to capitalize on people's vices and desires, and I made sure to profit from them. My rise to power wasn't without its challenges. Rival gangs were always a threat, and I had to navigate the treacherous waters of Chicago's criminal underworld. There were turf wars, bloody conflicts, and constant power struggles. But through it all, I remained determined and ruthless. I eliminated anyone who posed a threat and ensured that my empire grew stronger. After establishing my name in the underworld of Chicago, I knew it was time to take things to the next level. I surrounded myself with a loyal and ruthless crew who were ready to do whatever it took to protect our interests. We were like a family, bonded by blood and a shared vision of dominance. I handpicked the best of the best, men who were fearless, cunning, and loyal to the core. Together, we formed a formidable force that struck fear into the hearts of our rivals. We controlled the bootlegging operations, the gambling dens, and anything else that brought us money and power. But it wasn't just about muscle and intimidation. I knew the importance of alliances and connections. I forged strategic partnerships with other influential figures, both in the criminal underworld and beyond. These alliances allowed me to expand my reach, gain valuable information, and neutralize any potential threats. The Capone gang was known for its ruthlessness and efficiency. We operated with precision and a code of silence. Loyalty was paramount, and betrayal was met with swift and severe consequences. We enforced our control through fear, violence, and the occasional display of power. The line between success and downfall was razor thin, and I witnessed firsthand the fragility of power. So join me as we journey into the heart of the Capone gang and unravel the secrets of our rise and eventual fall. Welcome to the world of Al Capone, where loyalty, power, and betrayal coexist in a deadly dance. When you're in my line of work, fame and fear go hand in hand. People knew who I was, and they knew what I was capable of. The mere mention of my name struck terror into the hearts of both my enemies and those who worked under me. I had earned a reputation as a ruthless and unpredictable force, and I made sure that everyone knew it. But fame wasn't just about striking fear. It brought with it a certain level of respect and admiration, even among those who despised what I represented. I became a symbol of defiance against the authorities, a living legend who seemed untouchable. My reputation was carefully cultivated. I understood the power of media and public perception. I made sure that my exploits were known far and wide. Newspaper headlines sensationalized my activities, creating a mystique around me. The stories of my lavish lifestyle, extravagant parties, and violent escapades only added fuel to the fire. But behind the fame, there was a darker side. The violence and bloodshed that accompanied my rise to power were not to be taken lightly. I wasn't afraid to eliminate anyone who stood in my way, whether it was a rival gang member or a law enforcement official. I made it clear that crossing me meant facing dire consequences. After years of evading the law, my luck finally ran out. I was convicted of tax evasion and sentenced to serve time in the infamous Alcatraz prison. The place was a fortress, designed to hold the most dangerous criminals in the country. But they couldn't contain the spirit of Al Capone. Life inside those cold, gray walls was a far cry from the extravagant lifestyle I had grown accustomed to. I was stripped of my power, my freedom, and even my trademark fedora. But I refused to let the prison break me. I maintained my composure and commanded respect, even in that hostile environment. During my time in prison, I had a lot of time to think. I reflected on the choices I had made, the lives I had affected, and the path that had led me to that point. It was a period of self-evaluation, a chance to confront my own demons and come to terms with the consequences of my actions. But I never lost sight of my ambitions. I knew that life outside those prison walls wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to regain my position of power. I kept in touch with my contacts and allies, laying the groundwork for my comeback. Upon my release, I faced a world that had changed. The criminal landscape had evolved, and new players had emerged. But I was Al Capone, and I wasn't about to fade into obscurity. I made calculated moves, leveraging my reputation and connections to reclaim my stake in the underworld. However, life on the outside wasn't without its challenges. The law enforcement agencies had me in their sights, eager to see me fall once again. But I was more cunning and resourceful than ever. I navigated the treacherous waters of the criminal underworld, making strategic alliances and staying one step ahead of the authorities. After my release from prison, life took an eventful turn for me. Stepping back into the world outside those prison walls, I encountered a series of significant events and challenges. Allow me to share with you, in my own words, what transpired during that time. First and foremost, I was faced with the daunting task of rebuilding my criminal empire. The landscape had changed, new players had emerged, and I needed to reclaim my position of power. It wasn't an easy feat, but I was determined to regain my dominance and restore the Capone legacy. I also found myself entangled in the web of law enforcement. The authorities were relentless in their pursuit of me, eager to see me fall once again. Furthermore, I encountered both allies and adversaries in the criminal underworld. Some sought to align with me, recognizing my reputation and influence, while others saw me as a threat to their own ambitions. Navigating these complex relationships and forming strategic alliances was crucial for my survival and success. In this phase of my life, I experienced both triumphs and setbacks. There were moments of exhilarating victories, where I emerged as the victor in conflicts and secured my position as a formidable force. But there were also challenges that tested my resilience and determination, forcing me to adapt and overcome. Throughout it all, I remained relentless in my pursuit of power and influence. I leveraged my cunning and strategic thinking to outmaneuver my rivals and expand my reach. The world had changed, but I was still Al Capone, a force to be reckoned with. So my friends, after my release from prison, I faced a tumultuous journey filled with power struggles, alliances, and intense rivalries. It was a period that defined my legacy and showcased my ability to thrive in the face of adversity. As I worked diligently to rebuild my criminal empire and regain my position of power, I encountered a wave of resistance from rival factions. They saw me as a threat to their own dominance and were determined to undermine my efforts. Fierce battles were fought, both in the shadows and on the streets, as I clashed with those who sought to impede my progress. However, I was not alone in this struggle. I had cultivated a network of loyal associates and allies who stood by my side. Together, we formed a formidable force that stood strong against the onslaught of opposition. These individuals were as committed as I was to preserving the Capone legacy and expanding our influence. One of the significant challenges I faced was the ever-watchful eye of law enforcement agencies. They were relentless in their pursuit of me, and I had to constantly remain vigilant and take calculated steps to evade their grasp. The cat-and-mouse game between me and the authorities intensified, heightening the stakes of my endeavors. During this phase, I also came to realize the importance of diversifying my operations and expanding into legitimate businesses. I recognized that relying solely on criminal activities was not a sustainable long-term strategy. Therefore, I ventured into various ventures such as real estate, entertainment, and even philanthropy. This allowed me to build a facade of respectability while still maintaining my underground operations. Ultimately, the later years of my life were marked by a sense of reflection and introspection. I sought solace in spending time with my family and engaging in philanthropic endeavors, hoping to leave a positive legacy despite my notorious reputation. It was a time of self-discovery and a quest for inner peace. So, my friends, the aftermath of my release from prison brought forth a series of trials and tribulations. It was a period characterized by intense rivalries, evading law enforcement, and finding new avenues for growth. But it was also a time of self-reflection and the pursuit of redemption. In the final stages of my life, after years of struggle and countless experiences, I was overcome by the relentless force of Alzheimer's disease. This cruel and debilitating illness gradually stripped away my identity and memories. The recollections and events that once defined my life slipped through my fingers. I, who was once powerful and fearsome, transformed into a bitter and feeble version of myself. Many of my memories were lost to oblivion, and I couldn't even articulate the names of my own family. It was a complete downfall, not just for Al Capone, but for those who always saw me as a symbol of power and strength. Throughout this period, my family stood by me, providing care and offering comfort and support. Yet, the despair of losing who I once was left me feeling incomplete and hopeless. I could no longer be myself, and I couldn't distinguish between the real world and my inner world. Eventually, on a bitter day, my body grew weak, and the spark of life escaped me. It was the day Al Capone, the icon of crime and power, succumbed to the silence and emptiness of death. It was the final end, marking the conclusion of a dark and ambiguous chapter. Let it serve as a reminder to all that, although I lived a life filled with crime and corruption, in the final days, I was still a human being struggling with my own circumstances and limitations.